Apple just dragged the most famous startup on Earth into court. 400 of its own engineers already jumped to the other side. One quit but kept his laptop, then texted, "LOL, I can still read everything." In June, OpenAI grabbed the man building Apple's smart glasses. Apple started cutting $400,000 checks just to make people stay. OpenAI smiled and offered them $1 million a year. There's one rule nobody here says aloud. OpenAI broke it in broad daylight. Here's how the gloves finally came off. Start with where this happens. Cupertino, California, 1 square mile, Apple has guarded for 50 years. Apple almost never sues a person just for quitting. This month, it filed a 40-page complaint that does exactly that. To see why that's strange, you need the rule nobody prints on a slide. In California, non-competes are basically illegal. You can walk out today and start at a rival tomorrow. Legally, Apple cannot stop a single engineer from leaving, not one of them. So how do you hold a company together when everyone can walk? You police the culture instead. Money couldn't hold them and contracts were illegal here. Reputation was the only fence left. And there's a real email that proves it. Intel's CEO writing to Google's in plain words. No contracts, no paper trail, just an understanding between powerful men. This has a history and it isn't a clean one. In 2010, the Justice Department called those deals what they really were, an illegal cartel. The secret contracts died in court. The etiquette behind them didn't. The logic was simple. Raid my team and I raid yours and we both bleed out. So nobody moved first. You don't march into a rival and gut its core team. Everyone knew that line. OpenAI decided the line didn't apply to it. More than 400 former Apple employees now work at OpenAI. Whole teams that used to build the iPhone now build for its biggest rival. And look who walked. The names read like a roll call of Apple's design floor. Jony Ive shaped how every iPhone looks. Evans Hankey ran design after he left. And in June, OpenAI took Paul Mead, the man leading Apple's smart glasses. It really began with a $6.5 billion deal. Last year, OpenAI bought a startup called I.O., barely a product. The value was the people. I.O. had barely shipped a thing. What OpenAI actually bought was a room full of people who'd already made 1 billion iPhones. The biggest name inside wasn't Ive, it was a quieter one, Tang Tan. Tan spent 25 years inside Apple, shaping the iPhone and the watch. Now he's OpenAI's chief hardware officer, and he knew exactly which engineers to call. Here's how personal it gets. Tan's old boss at Apple was John Ternus. Ternus is about to become Apple's next CEO. His former deputy now runs the enemy. Apple fought back the only way it really could, with cash. Even that was unusual enough to leak. The richest hardware company alive, writing panic checks. Nothing worked. But money isn't what the lawsuit is really about. Here's the clever move. No non-compete to lean on. So Apple's lawyers went looking for a different question to ask. Trade secrets. The one thing California law will still let you fight over. A trade secret case doesn't need a non-compete. It needs proof something confidential walked out. And Apple's story of how the secrets walked is genuinely wild. Apple says the job interviews weren't really interviews. They were fishing trips. Tan allegedly quizzed candidates about the exact Apple projects they were still building. And recruits were told what to bring, Apple claims. Actual unreleased hardware. Batteries, logic boards, carried out the door to a job interview. There was even a checklist, Apple says, for slipping past its own security. You don't accidentally walk a logic board out of the world's most secretive company. If any of this holds up, it's not loose lips. It's a plan. Then there's the engineer, who makes it all feel personal. Cheng Liu. Liu left for OpenAI, and Apple says, never handed back his work laptop. A software bug still let him reach right into Apple's internal file servers, so he messaged an old coworker. LOL, I found out I can access the storage, so funny. She wrote back 2 words, I'm ready. Her name was Alyssa Peng. Weeks later, Peng joined OpenAI too. Fortune walked through those messages line by line. OpenAI's answer to all of it was one clean sentence. We have no interest in other companies' trade secrets. Now, slow down. This is Apple's side, written by Apple's lawyers. A complaint is an accusation, not a verdict. Half of it still has to be proven. Discovery could grind on for years, and OpenAI gets to tell its own version. Trade secret fights are slippery anyway. Ideas in a person's head are hard to prove stolen. And there's an awkward little twist Apple would rather you skipped. That 2010 cartel, the illegal no-poach deals? Apple was right in the middle of it. The company crying foul today literally helped write the original playbook. So a lawsuit like this is also a message aimed at everyone still inside. Think twice, we're watching, we'll make it expensive. Which tells you how scared Apple really is. And honestly, it should be. Its whole identity is being the company that makes the object everyone wants. A rival that copies that, staffed by Apple's own veterans, is the real nightmare. Because of what OpenAI is trying to build with all these people. A device meant to replace your phone, glasses, earbuds, a screenless thing you just talk to. It plans to show its first hardware this year and ship it in 2027. OpenAI can write the software in its sleep. It could never build the hardware, so it bought the exact people who spent 20 years learning how. Making a phone hides 1,000 quiet fights. Heat, radio, glass that survives a drop. And that knowledge lives in people, in their hands and their instincts, never in a file. A court can seize a laptop. It can't seize 20 years of instinct. So the unspoken rule was never really about being polite. It was about pretending you could lock talent inside a building. OpenAI just proved you can't out loud in front of everyone. Somewhere in Cupertino tonight, a hardware engineer opens a new offer and starts doing the math.